Haruka Shinozaki, a regular high school boy, wakes up from a dream about Akiho Kusaka just as she is about to lift her skirt for him. In his sudden realization that he's still in class, his gaze meets Akiho's, but he quickly averts his eyes, feeling embarrassed by the situation. Akiho, being the perfect school role model, is good at sports, excels in her grades, and is the class representative on top of everything. On the other hand, Haruka, your average guy, has been interested in her since his first year of high school, but after being finally put in the same class as her, he finally came to realize his feelings. Thinking that he'll regret it if he doesn't say anything, Haruka asks Akiho to meet him after school and prepares some cool pickup lines. As she finally shows up, Haruka completely forgets what he had thought up. With nothing to lose, he tells Akiho that he likes her and wants her to go out with him. Much to his surprise, Akiho tells him that if he's okay with the way she is, she will try to be a good girlfriend, and that this will be her first relationship. Before he can tell her how glad he is, Akiho tells him that she will memorize all 48 basic positions for a good time, confusing Haruka. Little did he know that his first ever girlfriend is a bit strange. After finally getting her number, just as Haruka prepares to head off home, his childhood friend, Shizuku Ariyama, gives him a hug from behind, asking if it's alright for her to do this since they're childhood friends. Right at that moment, Haruka's little sister, Kanata, also walks up to them, telling Haruka that she will accompany him home since a loner like him doesn't have a girlfriend. Realizing that he's in a bit of a tough spot at the moment, Haruka decides to keep the news about Akiho to himself. The next day, as Haruka sits in his class, drooling while thinking about Akiho, she walks up to him, gaining his attention. She tells him that since they are dating, she would like to know more about him. Happy that he was thinking the same thing, he tells her to ask anything, and Akiho straight up asks for his fetishes. Embarrassed, he tries to tell her that he's just into normal things, but Akiho grips him by the shoulder, telling him to elaborate it in about 40,000 words. While they are having lunch, Haruka asks if he can have a picture of her, to which she sends him a dirty picture of herself posing like a character from an H game. On her way home, Akiho begins to think that maybe, just like everyone else at school, even Haruka thinks that she's a bit weird. However, when Haruka happily asks her to walk with her, she cannot help but blush, realizing that she had been wrong about him. The next day during school, Shizuku pays a visit to Haruka in his class and learns about his relationship. She starts shedding fake tears, asking Haruka how he can betray her after being physical with her, making Akiho jealous with her blatant lies. After taking them both to the arcade and taking pictures with them in a photo booth, she tells them not to worry as she will not interfere in their relationship. On their way home, Akiho tries to hug Haruka from behind but ends up knocking them both to the ground. She then apologizes to him, telling him that since she is inexperienced, she has no idea what to do. Haruka tells her not to worry as he can see that she is trying her best and that is more than enough for him. One day, as the rain starts to pour, Haruka asks Akiho if she wants to share an umbrella. Akiho, seeing how close couples get under an umbrella, shies away, telling Haruka that she is not ready for this sort of thing, so they both end up running home in the rain instead. After taking a bath, Haruka picks up his phone, worried that Akiho might have gotten a cold from the rain. Just as he is about to text her, Kanata walks in, telling Haruka that she will entertain his sad, lonely brother today. Haruka tells her to wait a moment till he finishes his text. Sneaking a peek at his phone, Kanata jokingly asks who Akiho is and if she is his girlfriend. As Haruka tells her that she is his girlfriend, dread starts to creep over her. Haruka looks at Kanata and realizes that she is shaking. She tries to get his attention again, but Haruka receives a call from Akiho while Kanata decides that it's best for her to leave. While eavesdropping on him from the outside, Kanata starts to wonder if Akiho and Haruka are actually that close. The next day, she visits Haruka in school, trying to see who Akiho really is, and gets completely captivated by her beauty. Worrying that she might steal away his brother, she grabs Haruka's arm, pulling him away from Akiho and telling her that he shares his snacks with her. She also tells her that Haruka caresses her and follows behind him, making Akiho realize that she doesn't have a claim to anything like that. Just as Haruka is about to pat Kanata on the head, Akiho begins to shake, telling Haruka that forbidden love between brothers and sisters isn't okay, making him wonder how the misunderstanding got this way. While they eat their lunch on the roof, Kanata tries to intervene again. As she tries to grab Haruka's hand, Kanata accidentally shoves Akiho, making her fall. While Haruka tries to ensure Akiho's well-being, Kanata quickly hides behind the building. When Haruka approaches her again, Kanata begins to whimper, apologizing since she only wanted to eat lunch with him. Akiho tells her it's all right and hands her a handkerchief, instantly making Kanata her friend. Later, as their class cleans the school, Akiho overhears a few students talking and begins to think that maybe Haruka will discard her just like trash, but Haruka tells her that he treasures the things he's attached to, making her feel relieved. The next day, while Shizuku eats lunch with them at school, Akeho notices that she is eating a homemade bento box. Hoping to learn how to cook, she begs Shizuku to teach her. That night, Akeho finally learns to make a beef stew. As Haruka takes his first bite, she finally feels relieved when he likes it. When it's time for her to leave, it starts to rain again. Haruka takes out his umbrella once more, asking if she wants to join. Despite having her own, Akeho works up the courage to share with him instead. Akeho finally works up the courage to tell her parents, Natsuo and Fayumi Kusaka, that she has a boyfriend and that he is coming over for dinner. As Akeho goes out to buy some food, her mother, Fayumi, prepares to entertain Haruka. As she goes through an old photo album, happy that Akeho is finally of that age when she starts bringing boys over, Haruka arrives. At first, he mistakes her for Akeho, but after noticing her hair, Haruka realizes that it's actually her mother, as she takes him inside and offers him some tea. Fayumi gets straight to the point, telling Haruka that family planning is important since now he's dating Akeho. After learning that Haruka has a little sister, Fayumi asks him if she should have one for Akeho as well. Haruka, feeling uncomfortable, desperately looks around, trying to find something that will help him change the subject. Upon noticing the photo album, Haruka starts asking about it. As she shows Akeho's pictures from her childhood to Haruka, Natsuo peeks at them from the window. Memories start to flood back to him as he remembers how quickly Akeho grew up and how much Fayumi trained her to be able to capture the heart of the one she eventually falls in love with. Akeho finally arrives with the food, and when things start to get a little tough for him, Haruka notices Natsuo in the doorway. Relieved that there is finally someone else in the room, Haruka quickly goes to greet him, making both Akeho and Fayumi think that he may prefer men. When Haruka finally leaves, Fayumi apologizes to Natsuo for her shortcomings, but Natsuo tells her it's all right and that she's always been a wonderful wife. Later that night, Natsuo goes to the living room, where he finds Fayumi and Akeho talking since Akeho is about to go on her first date. Fayumi advises Akeho to be vigilant on the date and do her research as well. The next day, when Haruka goes to pick Akeho up from her home for their date, he gets completely enchanted by her beauty. They spend the entire day hanging out, watching movies, and eating at a cafe. While Haruka seems to genuinely enjoy himself, Akeho keeps on jotting down every single minute detail about what lovers do all day long. At the end, when Haruka tells her that he enjoyed being with her on the date, Akeho realizes that she forgot to do the same, and instead of giving Haruka time, she spent the entire day engrossed in her research. Thinking that he might have said something bad, Haruka asks if she would like to go with him next Sunday as well to see the cherry blossoms. Happy that she is getting another chance, Akeho immediately starts to plan out the next date. However, as their date finally approaches, Akeho falls severely ill, prompting Haruka to tell her not to worry and just rest. On Sunday, Akeho calls Haruka, telling him that she has recovered and will go on the date. Excited, he picks her up for the date, but unfortunately, all the cherry blossoms had already fallen because of the rain. Seeing that Akeho is sad, Haruka tells her not to worry as they can come here next year together. Akeho blushes, happy at the thought that Haruka isn't going to leave her. During school, a new transfer student, Rina Seiju, joins Haruka's class. After introducing herself, Rina tells them that she likes to romp around with hairy males, making everyone freak out and avoid her. Akeho, along with Haruka, both approach her, introducing themselves. As Rina asks them why the students here don't like romping with dogs, Haruka tells her that she should have used her words carefully and not talk about her dogs as if they are human. Rina tells them that she is looking forward to making friends with both boys and girls since she had always been in an all-girls school before. Once the class is over, Rina finds out that they're actually a couple. Intrigued, she goes on to ask Akeho about the things she likes about Haruka. Akeho, despite having almost nothing in common with Haruka, tries her best to answer her but ends up saying that it's difficult for her to put everything into words, embarrassing Haruka. Rina tells them that it's interesting to see a male and female couple, but Haruka clarifies, saying that it is quite common. Interested in making friends with the boys, Akeho tells Rina that she can ask an instructor to help her out. They both spend the entire day with Rina, getting to know her better. The next day during school, seeing that Rina is feeling down, Haruka asks what's wrong, to which she tells him that her friend from old high school just ended their friendship with her. Akeho tells Rina not to worry as she will remain her friend forever, making Rina happy. Over the weekend, they all, along with Shizuku, decide to visit the zoo. Meanwhile, seeing that Akeho is on a date as well, both Fayumi and Natsuo decide to visit the zoo as well since they went there on their first date. While Haruka struggles with the girls as they keep comparing him with the animals, Fayumi and Natsuo visit the elephant exhibit. As Natsuo asks why she always likes elephants, Fayumi tells him that she always likes how big and strong they are. As Natsuo turns to stone with despair, Fayumi apologizes, realizing that her sarcasm just hurt Natsuo's masculinity. While they both look at a monkey with high breeding capability, Kanata points at it, telling her friend Misaki Akawa about it. Misaki starts to shy away after reading the monkey's description, but after seeing Fayumi act so mature, she realizes that it's normal for animals. She tells Kanata that she is interested in knowing the mode of its breeding, but Kanata has no idea what even breeding means. Misaki then runs away, embarrassed, thinking she has a dirty mind. Natsuo, after twisting his ankle, starts to limp back home with Fayumi's support. He remembers that back when they were young, he had to go home with her support as well since something similar had happened. Fayumi looks at him, thanking him for coming on a date with her just like she had said all those years ago. Natsuo hugs her, telling her that he's glad that he got married to her. Meanwhile, on their way back home, just as Haruka and Akiho are about to hold hands, Fayumi and Natsuo run into them. Natsuo asks Haruka if he was about to hold his daughter's hand, but Akiho cuts in, saying that he has his entire arm around Fayumi. During school, Rina excitedly comes over to Haruka and Akiho, telling them that she is finally able to get a new phone. After taking Akiho's number, she immediately calls her asking about the type of stuff she's wearing. While Haruka tries to stop them both from talking so freely during class, Akiho, without any hesitation, starts giving Rina the details. After class, Rina asks Haruka to teach her how to take a selfie and to take one with her. He quickly explains everything about the camera as well as how to apply different filters and takes a picture with her. Rina happily runs around telling everyone that she got a facial picture with Haruka, shocking everyone with her words. Akiho tells Haruka that she heard boyfriends require alone time as well, so from now on she will take that into consideration. Haruka tells her not to worry as he'd be more happier if they spend more time together. She tells him that she heard when a lover lifts your chin in a romantic yet demanding way, it makes your heart pound. Haruka, realizing what comes after doing something like that, tells Akiho that there is no way he's trying that, however agrees to it when she insists. Akiho looks at him menacingly, telling him to bring it on, making Haruka wonder if he's going to get beaten up. As she asks if his heart pounded, Haruka tells her that it did, but in a different way. During class, whenever he forgets anything, Akiho is always present to help Haruka out. It's like she keeps a watch over him, waiting for the moment to jump in as soon as he needs something. Haruka thanks Akiho, telling her that she's great and that he might get dependent on her. He accidentally drops an eraser and Akiho jumps straight after it, banging her head on the desk. Haruka, while making sure she's alright, vows to never drop an eraser again. During the break, she runs off to bring him food, making people look at Haruka in disgust since he's making a girl do work for him. Things get even worse when after PE, Akiho, thinking that her service has been unsatisfactory, tells Haruka that she'll work much harder now, making the other students think he's exploiting her. As she tries to read more of his feelings, Shizuku joins them as well. She tells Haruka that she will try to guess what he wants to eat. Realizing that a dirty joke is incoming, he prepares himself but is completely taken aback when Shizuku tells him he wants to eat tonkatsu. During a meeting with the other representatives about new proposals, Sayori Igarashi, Seo Shizumori, Seishiro Kurono, and Shindo Emisawa, Akino proposes that students should be allowed to carry Excite books at school, which Sayori immediately shoots down. She tells her that textbooks are sufficient for students to learn about that. Upon overhearing Sayori practicing tum techniques in the classroom, Akino assumes she'd be on board with her idea. However, Sayori, feeling embarrassed, quickly clarified that her efforts were solely aimed at improving her saxophone skills and nothing else. One day during school, Akiho ends up getting severe hiccups. Shizuku, knowing that one can scare hiccups away, hides in a closet in the lab as Haruka and Akiho enter. Thinking that they might be doing something obscene, she jumps on them and notices that Haruka was only trying to stick tissue up Akiho's nose to make her sneeze and end her hiccups. Summer has kicked in, and as they make their way to school, Haruka can't help but admire how stunning Akiho appears in her summer uniform. Catching her eye, Haruka assumes she's seeking a compliment and proceeds to tell her that she looks really good. Just as they enter the school grounds, they notice all the girls fawning over Seiya, Hashikawa, the most handsome boy at school, as well as the school idol and their classmate. During the break, as he uses the restroom, Haruka cannot help but think how Seiya is in a completely different league than him, considering how popular he is with the girls. Wondering if Akiho would fall for a guy like him and leave him, Haruka leaves the restroom, and much to his shock, he finds Akiho talking to Seiya. Haruka, peeking at them from a corner, cannot believe that Akiho is talking to some other boy than him and starts to panic, but tries to calm himself down by telling him that they might just be friends. Right at that moment, Shizuku walks up to him. Haruka quickly pulls her to the side and asks, since she is his childhood friend, how far is she willing to go with him. Realizing he's worried about Akiho, Shizuku tells him not to mislead her by saying such things and tells him to carefully consider his facts before coming to any conclusions. Knowing that it's possible someone can confess to Akiho in the future, Haruka decides to face Seiya. He musters up his courage and walks up to them asking Akiho for an explanation. Seiya tells Haruka that he came to Akiho for advice since he has trouble making friends with guys since all his friends right now are girls. Realizing that he's been mistaken about him, Haruka tells Seiya that he will be his friend, making him happy. Seeing flowers bloom around them and Seiya's face light up, Akiho realizes that Seiya prefers boys. Dread starts to creep over her as he grabs Haruka and starts leading him away. Even as the students hang their wishes on a Christmas tree, Akiho cannot help but notice that Seiya and Haruka are getting closer, making her think her relationship is in jeopardy. As they prepare for the upcoming softball match, Haruka wants nothing more than to show off his skills to Akiho, but sadly he is terrible at the game. Seiya, seeing that he needs help, tells Haruka how to hold and use a bat. Akiho, peeking at them from a corner, ends up thinking that they are doing something indecent. She tries to confront them about it, but Haruka, wanting to keep it a secret, tells Akiho that he will show it to her tomorrow properly, creeping her out even more. The next day during the match, Haruka tries his best to hit the ball at least once. Seiya walks up telling Haruka that he knows he'll hit it properly, and Haruka accidentally hits him straight in the crotch, making him whimper with pain. Haruka runs over to help him out, while Akiho stands in the distance, watching in horror as she thinks they are doing something obscene in the open. After the match, Haruka clears things up with her, telling Akiho that he wanted her to think he is cool. Akiho, realizing that he did it for her sake, thanks Haruka. Haruka and Akiho are in a park when they notice a lost brown dog. Thinking he might be lost, Akiho tries to feed him some bread, but instead, the dog starts licking her legs. As they wonder who this dog might belong to, Rina walks up to them, hugging the dog Butter as she had been looking all over for him. The next day at school, both Haruka and Akiho look at the announcement board, realizing that a 2-day and 1-night camping trip is coming up for them. During a class representative meeting, Sayori tells them that for the trip they have planned a test of courage that will take place on the hill. Asking what safety precautions they should take as the path is quite complex, Akiho suggests that they can hold hands while taking the test. Sayori blushes, telling her that something like that is embarrassing. After finally reaching the campsite while taking breaks along the way since Rina isn't used to walking long distances, the students start to prepare food. Haruka, while preparing the vegetables, ends up accidentally cutting his finger. Seeing Seiya slowly approach him and grab his hand, Akiho quickly snatches Haruka's hand away from him and puts his finger in her mouth, trying to heal him. Haruka notices Rina putting some strange supplements in the food. Fearing that it may be an aphrodisiac, he quickly runs over to make sure no one eats it, but notices that it was a separate batch that Rina was preparing for her guards. As the night approaches and everyone gets ready to take the test of courage, Seiya walks past them, telling Haruka that he will be scaring people as a feeling of love has been known to develop from the feeling of terror. While Haruka thinks that he's encouraging them, Akiho cannot help but wonder what he's planning to do during the test. Akiho enters the forest with Haruka, clinging to his arm, determined to protect him with everything she has. They both spot Seiya as she tries to scare them and eventually end up running into Rina as well. As they make their way further in, Seiya finally tries to scare them, swinging from a vine, wearing nothing but a leaf cape. Rina accidentally pulls away a leaf, making him fall on them. During the bath, Seiya tells Akiho that since they are here now, anything can happen between boys and girls. Sayori tells them that nothing can happen since they are in separate rooms, but Seiya points out that anything can happen outside. Later that night, Haruka asks Akiho to accompany him. Thinking that he might be making a move, she silently follows him. She braces herself, ready to do whatever he desires, but Haruka only extends his hand, asking her if she can hold it as they take a walk. Akiho blushes and grabs his hand, telling him that she's still inexperienced, but she is still his girlfriend. Sayori notices that ever since they returned from the camping trip, the environment around the school has gotten impure. She cannot stand the fact boys and girls are standing so close to one another. Noticing 2 students leaving an empty classroom that should have been empty, Sayori enters it, trying to figure out what they had been doing in there. Looking at a closet, she begins to think that people might be using it to hide. She opens the door and finds Seiya in there, who is completely flustered. Once she's gotten her bearings, Seiya tells Sayori that she has no idea what the kids that were in here earlier were doing. Sayori tells her that she should report things like this to the disciplinary committee. Hearing someone approach, Seiya quickly pulls her inside the closet while Haruka and Kanata enter the room. Thinking that they might be doing something strange, Sayori tries to get out, but Seiya restrains her, telling her not to move so quickly. Thinking that there might be something to wipe the spilled juice in the closet, Haruka opens the door and finds both Sayori and Seiya entangled with one another. Sayori bursts out asking if he normally does this sort of thing. Thinking that she's asking about lunch, Haruka tells her that he does and likes it when there are more people, shocking Sayori as she starts to think Haruka is nothing more than a carnal monster. Sayori asks about Akeho, and thinking that Sayori thinks he's cheating on Akeho, Haruka tells her not to worry as this is his sister Kanata. Sayori's face lights up with disgust, thinking that he is keeping family relations like that as well. Realizing that she has misunderstood him, Haruka tries to clear his name, but Sayori just runs away. While using the restroom, Sayori decides to expose Haruka once and for all. Once she is done, she heads straight off to find him, not realizing that her skirt is still messed up. She finds Haruka, who is looking for her as well, and tells him that he needs to atone for his actions that corrupt the public morals of their school. Haruka tries to tell her that there has been a misunderstanding, but Sayori is in no mood to listen to him. She tells him that he has to write a written apology and orders him to follow her. As she turns around, Haruka notices that her skirt is still up. Contemplating whether to tell her or not, he realizes that either way he is going to get into trouble. He tries to tell her by asking if sometimes she just wants to touch her butt, creeping her out as she starts to think he wants to touch her as well. Akeho, who is walking by, notices Sayori's skirt as well but is unable to say anything. After lecturing Haruka on common decency, she finally places her hand on her side and realizes that her skirt has been up this whole time. Knowing that he had been trying to help her, Sayori begins to see Haruka in a different light. One day, Akeho forgets her undies at school. As she tries to quickly head to the restroom to wear a swimsuit underneath, Haruka catches up to her asking if she wants to have lunch with him. Not being able to turn him down, she agrees. Seo, sensing something is amiss, decides to follow them as well. As Haruka leads her outside to an empty bench, Akeho begins to wonder if he actually planned this out. Just when she is about to tell him the truth and raise her skirt, Haruka spots Seo peeking at them from the bushes. After realizing that Haruka had no ill intentions, Akeho apologizes as all this happened because she forgot something important home. Haruka gets a call from Akeho telling him that she will not be able to make it on their date since her father severely injured his back. After ending the call, Haruka begins to wonder what he should do. Right at that moment, Shizuku runs over to him. Seeing that he's alone today, Shizuku grabs hold of his arm, telling him to accompany her and drags him around all day as she shops for clothes. As they sit down to have some spicy curry, Shizuku cannot help but laugh at Haruka since he cannot stomach spicy foods and tells him to go for the mild one instead the next time they come here. Haruka tells her that her cooking is delicious as well and it makes him happy whenever he gets to eat it. Shizuku blushes, making Haruka think that the food is too spicy for her as well. While heading back home, Shizuku asks if he wants to come over to her house since her parents aren't home, and she'll make him a delicious dinner. Without even thinking, Haruka agrees to go with her. Shizuku blushes as she starts to beat Haruka, telling him that he's being audacious. After arriving at her home, Shizuku quickly heads off to change her clothes. Hearing her scream and calling out for help, Haruka quickly rushes to her room and notices that she has handcuffed both her arms and legs. She tells him that she thought it would be fun to spend time together if they were linked, so she was trying out handcuffs and lost the key. Haruka gets up to look for the key, but Shizuku tells him that she needs to go to the bathroom. He tells her to hold it, and as he quickly drags her to the bathroom. Later, as Haruka tries to look for the key, Shizuku tells him that she's hungry and tells him to cook some food. Feeling like he's been skillfully baited, Haruka cooks Shizuku dinner and then feeds her, after which he brushes her teeth as well. With everything done, Shizuku tells Haruka to carry her to her room. Instead of carrying her like a princess, Haruka just picks her up on his shoulder and drops her on her bed. As they both settle down to talk, Haruka notices the key in her pocket, realizing that this was all planned. Thinking about what she might do to make up to Haruka for missing their date, Akeho decides to join a cooking class and cook food for him, however ends up creating a demon instead. Seeing that she is upset, Haruka asks if he can taste it. Akeho tells him that he might get sick and that the duty of a girlfriend is to look after her boyfriend. Haruka tells her that it's also a girlfriend's duty to make sure her boyfriend is happy, and nothing will make him happier than to eat the food she cooked. Akeho blushes, unable to contain her happiness. As Haruka waits for Akeho for their date, she finally arrives, apologizing for being late. She grabs his arm, telling him that she loves him. They then spend the entire day together, and Haruka cannot help but think that she is the perfect girlfriend. However, he cannot help but feel a little uncomfortable. Eventually, Haruka wakes up in class, realizing that it all had been a dream. As Akeho walks up to him, he realizes that the image of her that he had in his mind initially may have been different, but he really does love her the way she is now. Kanata approaches Haruka at school, asking if he can study with her. Right at that moment, Misaki walks up to them as well and Kanata introduces her. She asks if she wants to join her as Haruka will be teaching her, but she declines after learning that they will be studying biology. Misaki starts her new job at an ice cream shop and gets completely taken aback by the number of weird customers that keep visiting her. Haruka visits her shop as well, asking for a round thing to suck, making her quickly hide with embarrassment, not realizing that he was asking for a tamtama. As she starts to head back home, Misaki wonders if she's the one who keeps thinking of obscene things. One day after school, seeing that Haruka is asleep, Akino tries to pet him, but he wakes up, making her quickly bury her face into the desk. Haruka, thinking that she is asleep, pets her head, but she quickly gets up. On their way back, the air between them becomes tense. Haruka apologizes for touching her without permission, but Akino tells him that it's not fair since he only got to do it. Realizing that she wants to pet him, Haruka allows her to pet him as well, and Akiho happily uses both her hands to scuff up his hair. The next day during art class, seeing that he is lacking inspiration, Haruka asks Akiho if she can pose for him. Realizing that her boyfriend needs her, she tells him not to worry as she will not move a single inch until he finishes his drawing. As he begins to draw, Haruka realizes that before they started dating, he could only stare at Akiho from a distance just as he is staring at her right now and couldn't do anything. He then takes one look in her face and gets completely entranced by her beauty. Remembering how much fun he had with her over the past few months, Haruka tells her that he loves her. Akiho tries to maintain her posture but quickly blushes and turns away, unable to hide her embarrassment. Haruka tells her that she does not need to rush and thanks her for everything. Akiho, realizing her feelings for him, tells him that she loves him as well. If you like what you saw, consider subscribing to the channel and stay tuned for more quality uploads.